Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Analytical Line. I'm Josh Davis. As always, thanks for joining me. Got a big time show for today. A lot of stuff to talk about. Stacked week of Penn State sports. Today's agenda, I'm going to talk about the NFL draft, give a little preview of that. It's happening later this week. There's several Penn State players, former Penn State players, that are going to get drafted. And I just wanted to kind of talk about them one more time before they are in Pittsburgh for the draft. Then I'll talk about the blue-white game. It's more of a blue-white practice, but I'll still be there. Many other people will still be there as fans enjoying the game. And hopefully, I say game because it's like, what else do you call it? But it's really not going to be. And I'd really hope that it's just something fun and we get to see the players in some sort of action similar to a game that we can at least figure out how good they are. And maybe some stuff in terms of where they're at on the depth chart, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then at the end, I'll give a Penn State Hoops transfer portal update for the basketball team. There's a lot of stuff going around, players leaving, players coming. There's a lot of changes, so I'll make sure to get you guys updated with what Coach Rhoades is doing and the basketball squad at Penn State. Let's start off with the NFL draft. There's a couple of guys that are like fringe first rounders, and then there's Vega Ioane, who's a lock first rounder. He's probably going to be one of the first offensive linemen off the board. In terms of teams that could take him, it's anybody's pick. Really, everybody could use Vega Ioane on their team. And as I go down, I look at guys like Denine and Sutton. That is probably an early to mid second round selection. It'd be a pleasant surprise if he made it towards the end of the first round. And then the real wild card is Drew Aller, right? Where does a team take a quarterback like him who is coming off the injury, who had lots of success at Penn State, but is primed as an NFL quarterback? We've been talking about this for years, how good of an NFL prospect he is because of his size, because of his ridiculous arm strength, because of his accuracy on deep throws that's better than almost anybody in this class. I mean, obviously, Mendoza's going number one. You have a couple of other quarterbacks that might go in the first round, whether you're looking at Nussmeier or Beck or Ty Simpson, but none of those guys have the arm talent that Drew Aller has. And I think that's what makes Aller an intriguing first-round pick. You know, a year ago, if he'd declared for the draft, he would have probably been a lottery pick. And now this year, coming off the injury and a down season, where things didn't really go right for Penn State and Drew Aller specifically, I'm not sure if he is going to be a top first round pick. A lot of places have him going in the second round, maybe even the third round, depending on how high they are on him as a prospect. I think enough teams would look at Drew and be willing to take a flyer on him as their quarterback of the future that I think he will get taken in the first round, maybe towards the second half of the first round, where it's like you have a team that has a solid quarterback plan, but they want to develop Drew behind a mature quarterback, a guy that has been in the league for a while and that can kind of take Drew under his wing and turn Aller into a future star. I don't think anybody's going to be taking Aller in the lottery, expecting him to play for them this upcoming season. A couple of other top guys coming out of Penn State. You got Zakee Wheatley as a safety. He's an excellent communicator, beastly tackler, elite coverage player overall. I think he'd be taken in the second or third round. You got Drew Shelton, another elite offensive line prospect. Of course, the running backs, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. It'll be really interesting to see where they get taken. And you got other guys like Zane Durant, Trevor Pena out of the wide receiver position. I think he could get taken a little later in the draft, but I do think he'll get in there. You look at tight end with Khalil Dinkins. I think he will get drafted at some point. Just a bunch of guys that had really good careers at Penn State that are now off to the league. And this is a time for them later this week on Tuesday to have their dreams fulfilled. Yeah, let's talk about the blue-white game. I've been talking about this for a while, but I'm going to make it really simple. I'm going to give you 5 guys that you really need to pay attention to during the blue-white game. and I'll tell you why. And then I'll give you a couple of other guys just that, maybe some guys that are further down on the depth chart, some backups that have just performed really well in the spring that I'd love to watch during the blue-white game. And then I'll give my thoughts on the offense and defense as a whole and the special teams and just where these units are at the end of spring practice. The top 5 players to watch during the blue-white game. First, on the offense, James Peoples. Running back, transfer from Ohio State. He has been just as advertised. He's come in, and everyone thought that he was going to be an elite running back prospect that could fill the void left by Fat Man and Nick Singleton. Of course, those guys are off to the league. I just mentioned it in my NFL draft preview. And it's one of those things where those are the guys that we've had at Penn State for the last 4 years. This is new and kind of scary territory for Penn State, that among all the other change going on in the program, the running back position is experiencing probably the most turnover out of any of the positions that we really haven't experienced in a while. For the last 4 years, it was just, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, they got it on lock. And now we're kind of looking at the running back position like, where do we go from here? It's a couple guys returning. Of course, we got Quentin Martin, who has had a fantastic spring. You got Cam Wallace, who's as good of an athlete as anybody on the team. But James Peoples is leading the way. He's the most talented player in that room, and he has dominated this spring. He's looked so ready to be the lead running back for this Penn State room. And of course, anytime you get anybody from Ohio State, it's a big deal. The other guy is Connor Berry, quarterback from Christopher Newport, another transfer. The quarterback room's in a similar situation to where it looked like that room was so solid for several years with Drew Aller leading the way. And it looked like we had the quarterback of the future in Ethan Grunkmeyer. Matt Campbell did not make him enough of a priority to stick around. Grunkmeyer just dominated the spring for Virginia Tech. And I think he's going to be really good for Coach Franklin and Coach O'Brien down there. But now you got Connor Berry. Of course, he came in looking like the backup to Becht, right? But Connor Berry has filled in for an injured Becht in the spring, and he's absolutely taken advantage of it. This is a guy who I watched film of him all through this offseason and was just so impressed. And the thing that concerns me about Becht is how he will handle the Big Ten offenses and defenses in terms of managing that. And then you look at Berry, somebody who's so mature, played so much football, and the key is he's played winning football. He went undefeated last year at CNU, was a finalist for the D3 Heisman. This is a guy that has all the intangibles that translate to higher levels of football. We've seen this before with several quarterbacks going from lower levels of football up to Power 5 playoff level football, and they've all succeeded and taken their games to the next level and dominated. Whether it was Cam Ward going from Washington State to Miami, or Fernando Mendoza going from Cal, or Trinidad Chambliss going from Ferris State to Ole Miss. So many guys have had success. I could go on and on. So many guys have had success going through the transfer portal from low levels up to the very highest levels of college football, have wriggled their ways into starting positions because of just how good they are at the intangibles, and then they get to show off their arm talent and their natural ability. I think Connor Berry is that guy, and I think he's the next star transfer to come out of the portal, and I think it's the first big quarterback transfer for Penn State, a team that under James Franklin didn't really rely on the transfer portal at all for quarterbacks. And so this is unprecedented territory for the program and for Penn State fans. And I'm telling you, I cannot wait to see Connor Berry for the first time in Beaver Stadium this weekend, because he's going to have many great games there this season come fall. And then the other guy is Kobe Howard. Who is Connor Berry going to be throwing to this weekend? Kobe Howard's going to be one of the top ones. He's returning. It was a hot topic this last season with how few plays and how few games that Kobe Howard got to play in. because Coach Franklin refused to put him in. And then eventually when Coach Smith became the interim coach, we got to see a little bit more of Kobe Howard. Now it's time for Kobe Howard to completely take over. I expect breakout season for him. Everything you hear at practice, everything you watch on film, the route running is elite. He's one of the few guys that came out of an old Penn State wide receiver room that has been struggling lately. And he has so much ability and so much talent that it's just impossible to believe that he wasn't playing more. That's what was so frustrating about the Kobe Howard situation last year, is everyone can see him when he's on the field. He looks so talented. He looks so good. And it's hard to believe he wasn't getting more PT. And now he gets to lead this room. He's the best wide receiver at Penn State right now. And I can't wait to see him get his first few reps as a starter this Saturday. As a whole, this offense has a lot of potential. There's a plethora of playmakers at every position, from the trenches to the outside. Coach Mauser, the new offensive coordinator, he's inexperienced, and I will miss Coach Kotelnicki's creativity with the play calling. But Iowa State's offenses under Mauser were executed well. They always did a fantastic job of scheming the ball into their best players' hands. With Kobe Howard, Chase Swell, Lyric Samuel, Karam Brookins, Brett Eskeldson, and Amarian Jackson, PSU finally has a deep wide receiver room to lean on. This isn't a weakness anymore. It's something that you can say is a strength, something you can lean on when you need a big play. And they will need one or two of those guys to emerge as elite Big Ten players, and I think Howard and Sewell are my early favorites to do that. Tight end remains a strength, with Andrew Rappleyea returning as the starter and Ben Bramer coming in from Iowa State to back him up. Bramer is a sure-handed 6'7" behemoth that's just an awesome safety blanket to have around, and we all know how explosive Rappleyea is. The running back room is losing one of the best duos in Penn State history, with Singleton and Allen heading to the NFL. However, Quentin Martin had a great spring. James Peoples looks like an RB1 as advertised. It's just different when you bring in elite talent from Ohio State. Carson Hansen and Cam Wallace are great depth pieces to have. You can't have too many running backs when you have an offense. On the offensive line, Coach Clanton has already emerged as one of my favorite new coaches. He brings tons of intensity and confidence, and the PSU O-line group is not losing a step despite graduating several NFL prospects. Malachi Goodman and Brock Riker have stood out in spring, and then returners Anthony Donko, Cooper Cousins, and Chimney Ano round out an exciting starting five. And then finally, the quarterbacks. Is it a good thing if the worst position on the team is the quarterback position? Penn State wasn't able to keep Ethan Gruckmeyer. He just finished a dominant spring at Virginia Tech, and he's primed to be an all-ACC player for them. Now they're stuck with an injured Rocco Becht from Iowa State, or so it seemed. They also got another transfer from CNU, Connor Berry, who's dominated ever since he stepped foot on campus, and according to several coaches, Berry has been far and away the top QB in this spring for Penn State. He'll get the chance to be the QB1 in the blue-white game, and I really hope he balls out, because PSU has their best chance of winning this season with Berry at the helm. A veteran leader who went undefeated last year, a guy who simply knows how to win, unlike Becht. Berry has by far the strongest arm on the team. He throws 75, 80 yards with ease. It's crazy how far he throws, along with surprising accuracy and mobility that has translated early in practices to the Big Ten level. I can't wait for Berry to prove to the Penn State world that he's the answer that this team needs to rise up out of a tumultuous time. Let's move on to the defense. I got two guys to pay attention to on the defense going into this weekend. First is Zion Tracy, cornerback, nickelback, returning to Penn State. He is going to be the true leader for this defense. He emerged last season as a really important DB, but I think this year, Coach Lynn and Coach Smith are really going to lean on him to go all the way with his development and truly become an all Big Ten level player. I'm extremely excited for Zion Tracy. The reviews have been glowing about him so far this spring, and I really hope he finishes strong with a nice game this weekend. The other one's Siale Taupaki, a defensive tackle transfer from UCLA. Got a couple of really strong UCLA D linemen coming alongside the D-line coach, and of course, Coach Lynn coming from USC. Tons of connections out there. It's Taupaki's 8th year in college. He's an early veteran leader for the defensive line. When you bring in that kind of experience, it's always going to be really valuable, and I'm really excited to see how he does so far in the early stages at Penn State. Overall, I'm a little concerned with how D'Anton Lynn's system will work at PSU. And this is the first year in a while I think PSU's defense will be a weak point as a whole. Terry Smith really is the glue holding this team together. He remains the most important coach on the team, but this defense has a severe lack of star power. Guys that I would trust to make game-changing plays against the best teams in the country. Thankfully, we don't have to play in Indiana, Oregon, Iowa, Ohio State this year. We don't have to play the elites in the country. But we still got to play Michigan, still got to play USC, and of course, if you want to be a playoff team, if you want to be a national championship contending team, you have to have elite playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. And I just mentioned we do have a couple guys, but we don't have an Abdul Carter, we don't have a Micah Parsons, we don't have a Denai Dennis Sutton anymore on this team, and we really need somebody to emerge, whether it's Yvonne Kamaju, or it's LeVar Arrington II, or it's Max Granville or Alex McPherson. There's some really good players on the D end at the D end position on this team, but one of them's going to need to emerge as an all Big Ten, all American level of player for this defense to truly be elite once again. Overall, there's tons of depth, like I was just mentioning. Plenty of intriguing talent for Terry Smith and co to work with. Darius Dixon, A.C. Collins, and Jameer Joseph all come back to Penn State to play for Coach Smith, and they're all primed for breakout seasons if they haven't already broken out. Iowa State transfers Caleb Bacon and Marcus Neal should be starters, along with Tony Rojas, who continues to fight his way back from injury. Rojas won't play this weekend, but we all know how good he is and how important he will be to the defense this season. He's that guy that I truly could be that star that I was just talking about. When you think of the great linebackers at Penn State, Tony Rojas has a chance to do that this year. And I really think he could be an all Big Ten, all American level player if he stays fully healthy. Some backups to watch. Wide receiver Amarian Jackson, he was initially recruited to play safety. He's since switched to wide receiver, and he's quickly asserted himself as one of the best athletes on the team. Really excited to see him finish his spring well. Center Brock Riker, a transfer from Texas State, gained 25 pounds since arriving on campus, and he's operated as the starting center this spring in place of injured Dom Ruley. And then on special teams, Coach Lustig is back, one of the best special teams coaches, if not the best special teams coach in the country. It's a wonderful hire by Coach Franklin a couple of years ago. Bringing Nathan Tice, transfer to be the punter, and of course we return Ryan Barker, so solid at the kicking position. It's just so crucial to have an elite kicker, and another year of Ryan Barker is going to be a blessing for Penn State. That's all I got for the Blue-White game. I'm going to say it just one more time to round it out. The guys to watch during the Blue-White game: James People, running back transfer from Ohio State; Connor Berry, quarterback transfer from Christopher Newport; Kobe Howard, wide receiver returning from last year at Penn State. And then on defense, Zion Tracy, returning cornerback, nickelback for Penn State; and Siale Taupaki, a defensive tackle, transferring in from UCLA. So make sure you go to Beaver Stadium this weekend. Try and avoid the construction if you can. I know it's going to be just a part of the experience at Beaver Stadium during this Blue-White Game Festival, and it's just going to be a grand time. Hopefully the weather's nice. It's been gorgeous in State College the last few weeks, and hopefully we get a nice sunny, warm day in Beaver Stadium to enjoy some football. And yeah, I'm so excited, and you should be as well. So our first really experience getting to see Coach Campbell and everything new at Penn State and see it live in the stadium. So let me quickly talk about Penn State basketball real quick. Tons of changes going on. Tibor Mirtic announced earlier today that he is transferring. Also got Justin Hauser, Dominic Stewart, Caden Mingo, Eli Rice, Mason Blackwood, Freddie DeLeon, and Meli Tunja in the transfer portal. Josh Reed is graduating. So all those are the guys that are gone. Jamison White decommitted. He was the lone high school recruit in the 2026 class, and he just decommitted a couple of days ago. So it's a lot of guys gone, right? And that's the bad news. Freddie DeLeon just committed to Georgia. Mason Blackwood's going to St. Bonnie's, and Mingo's going to Baylor. He'll probably get joined by his brother Dylan Mingo at Baylor, and I think Dylan's going to have to redshirt due to an injury anyways, so I'm not sure if they'll get to play together, but at the same time, it's probably pretty likely they'll go to the same school at least. That's probably why all the drama with their recruiting and transfer portal and all that's going on. In terms of returning players, Ivan Juric is the only one to formally announce he's coming back, and that's exciting. I've talked on the show about him before and how good the centers have been under Coach Rhoades and how well he has developed centers. Ivan Juric is just going to be the next star center at Penn State, as if he already wasn't a star center. He was so good this past season, and coming back for his sophomore season is going to be an absolute joy to watch. It's the cornerstone for this team now. You can lean on Ivan Juric and build the rest of the roster around him. Still to see on Reggie Grodin, Sasha Siani, and Chris Latito. They haven't announced anything, but they also haven't done anything. I'm assuming they're coming back, but at the same time, you can't assume anything right now. And let's talk about the good news. The players that are coming into Penn State. You got Rocco Prokachin from Nanterre, France. Big forward, along with Francois Wibaut, another French forward. A couple of big players with pro experience overseas. I believe Wibaut's like 23, and he's just got tons of pro experience over there. He was a very high recruit at some point a few years ago. So a couple of Euro guys coming over that are really highly rated that I'm really excited about, and for Penn State to go from the youngest team in the Power Four this year to one of the most experienced teams, I think would be a huge help. And Coach Rhoades, is pretty obvious what he's trying to do in the transfer portal. He's bringing in experience, he's bringing in size, and he's bringing in shooting, which are the clear, glaring concerns with the team this year. And those are the things that needed to be addressed in the offseason. He's going all in through the transfer portal to get size, experience, and shooting. And if that's the case, I think it'd be really exciting going into next year, because if you address those little concerns, then this team's going to be really good. You're also bringing in Jay Rogers, guard from Central Connecticut State. He seems really exciting. Brant Byers, guard from Miami of Ohio. Just so good for them in their run. One of the best shooters in the country last year. Roberts Blums, a guard from Davidson. He'll probably figure to be in that point guard, shooting guard mix. And then Tim Obo just committed a couple days ago. 6'11" center from Buffalo. He's originally from England. So you got another Euro guy transferring in. This is going to be a really exciting group. And I'm really excited from where they're at. So far in the transfer portal, obviously still work to do. But so far, this is a great start for Coach Rhoades in the transfer portal. We still need a couple new coaches as well. Joe Crispin's leaving to Air Force. Jamal Brunt's going to Syracuse to join Jerry McNamara. So still need a couple new coaches as well. But I'm sure with plenty of time left to get all that, Coach Rhoades, like I said, he's already got a great start. Finishing things off should be easier than the grind it's been to get things going. So really excited for where that's at, and hopefully we keep getting some new additions over the next few weeks. And I'll of course keep you updated on the analytical line. That will be all for today. Thanks for joining me. If you see me at the Blue White game in Beaver Stadium on Saturday, make sure to say hi. Hopefully that's a grand, fun experience, and I'll be back next week to tell you all about it. So that'll be all. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Nittany Lions.